So Surging Sparks is looking like an absolutely sensational set, and to be honest, I think it's looking as the best Scarlet and Violet set so far, and I think it's not that crazy to say that given the roster of Pokemon within the set, and given just how amazing the artworks are, which I'm about to take you through right now. But before I get into that, I just want to say a massive thank you to all of you, because I can't believe I hit 20,000 subscribers, which is actually mind-blowing to me, because when I started this channel, this was meant to be a thing where I just share my hobbies, connect with a few people around the world, and I thought it would be awesome. I didn't really expect that the content would resonate with so many different people, but nonetheless, here we are, and we are enjoying the new set Surging Sparks, which is scheduling to release in a few weeks from now. Now, in terms of Surging Sparks, I think this is where the set goes, okay? So a lot of people say, oh, but before you talk about the set, you can't really say it's going to be a good set, a good investment. Well, the set's not even out. How can we say this? But I think we can discuss what we want to discuss when it comes to sets. I think everyone watching this content is mature enough to realize when a set's good, we can call it good. We don't have to now sit around, dance around, oh, we think it's going to be okay. Like me as a content creator, the biggest thing for me is I want to be honest with my audience. I don't want to be now sitting here and just being like, yeah, I think it's going to be okay. Oh yeah, it looks okay, but you know, it's like, no man, I can tell that this set is really good, and I want to be honest with you and share those thoughts with you so you guys can actually see, hey, yeah, Surging Sparks is looking to be one of the best sets of Scarlet and Violet. And it doesn't come from me trying to overhype a set. I get no benefit from overhyping a set. The reason why is because the caliber of artworks within this set is really, really good. The roster of Pokemon within this set is really, really good. It's a Pikachu themed set. So Pikachu is on the box art, the mascot of the Pokemon that draws in a lot of fans. It's not anything like Vivid Voltage. Vivid Voltage in the Sword and Shield era, you only had the really rainbow Pikachu card in there that was really something of a standout. This has far more than that, which we're going to go into today. And moving on, we have the Mesprit, which is interesting because we didn't get the Uxie or the Azelf, and I thought we would have probably got those as well within the set, but we just kind of got Mesprit in the set. Nonetheless, this illustration rare is really, really cool. I am going to be very interested how some of these illustration rares are priced, because illustration rares have a really weird way of pricing themselves. You can get something like the Reboot illustration rare from Stellar Crown, which is worth like $5, and then some of them can be worth $2, some can even be worth $1, but then some illustration rares can exceed, you know, $70, $80, like something like the Eevee from Twilight Masquerade or the Magikarp from Paldea Evolved. So you really don't know where some of these illustration rares are going to go. I don't think this Mesprit's going to be anywhere near that pricing, but I do think it's going to be quite highly desired. I think this is going to be similar to a Veltol from Paradox Rift, but nonetheless, really cool card to pull, really great one to chase, and I just think, you know, Surging Sparks in terms of a master set is going to be a really cool set to master. A lot of people saying that this is Evolving Skies 2.0. I don't know, like, I'm thinking about it. I don't think Evolving Skies had, you know, you didn't just have everyone's like, oh, it's just the evolutions. Well, it's not really. You also had Dragonite. You also had Rayquaza in two different forms. You had the V and the V Max. You did have a lot going for Evolving Skies. It also was stacked with something like 18 alternate arts. It was the most alternate arts ever within a Sword and Shield set. So it did have a lot more going for it than just evolutions. But in saying that, I think that this is looking like a really interesting set. And it's definitely the best set of the Scarlet and Violet era so far. Moving forward, we have the Lisias Appeal, both the illustration rare and the special illustration rare. Right now I'm looking at the illustration rare, and I have to say that I actually prefer this over the special illustration rare. I just think that this artwork is really cool. I like the colors in it. I really, really do rate this card. And you know, if you were opening the Japanese equivalent, which was Paradise Dragona, which was one of the first halves of the set in the Japanese TCG expansions, these Lisias Appeals are really, really expensive. English, I don't think that they're going to get the same value. That we just, in English sets, we have had some, like for example, Miriam this year, and we also got Iono from Paldea Evolved, which did get high prices. But sometimes something like Erica's Invitation from Pokemon 151, that's not even in the top 20 most expensive cards from Pokemon 151, whereas in the Japanese set, it's one of the most expensive cards. So, you know, you don't know where it's going to go with this. I'm not sure how in demand Lisia's Appeal or Lisia as a character is for the English TCG audience. So it's going to be interesting to see how these two go. Now, moving on to the next ones, which is both the Feebas and the Milotic. So if you do watch my channel, and I have explained it in a lot of videos, but yes, my favorite Pokemon of all time is Milotic, and I do explain that in this video right here. You can see why Milotic is my favorite Pokemon, and it will always be my favorite Pokemon for a very specific reason, which I do cover in that video, so feel free to watch that. But yes, I am a very big fan of both Feebas and Milotic, particularly how you have to evolve Feebas into Milotic. It's very, very challenging. It's probably one of the hardest Pokemon to acquire, you know, albeit like there's other hard Pokemon to acquire, but you know, if you did play the Generation 3 games, you would know getting Milotic is hard. It wasn't just like in the later games where you could, I think you could trade it with like a Prism scale attached to the Feebas. I think it was pretty easy, right? You get the Prism scale, you trade, you get a Milotic. Now, getting Milotic in those early games was a slog. It was super difficult, but nonetheless, we're here at the Feebas and Milotic. Now, something interesting that someone told me in the comments is something that they stack on top of each other. So the Milotic on top of the Feebas, and you kind of have Feebas underwater with Milotic going on top, which does make sense. But kind of what illustration rares do in Pokemon. We've seen that also. They do tell a story, and that's what's so unique about them. I feel like we need more examples of that storytelling with the illustration rares. I feel like that was the purpose of them. Like in Scarlet and Violet base, we did get that with the Gardevoir storytelling line, and I feel we also got that with Pokemon 151, particularly with the Charmander, the Charmeleon, and Charizard line. It really did tell the story, and all of them do tell a story, but sometimes they're more obvious than others, and this one's an obvious storytelling kind of illustration rare with the special illustration rare. But I just want to go onto the Feebas at the start. Really, really cool. The lighting in this card is amazing, and of course, this is obviously the first time we've ever got Feebas as an illustration rare, but deservingly so. The Pokemon deserves a spot here. It's a really cool Pokemon, really unique. It is kind of like a Magikarp Gyarados counterpart in a weird way, but nonetheless, the only caveat being Magikarp is the most common Pokemon of all time, whereas, you know, if you play the games, you would know Feebas is one of the most rare Pokemon in existence, and usually it's always, whether you're playing Sword and Shield or whether you're playing any of the games, I think in Sword and Shield, Feebas was like a 1% encounter rate in one unique little fishing spot, and that's usually what it does. Usually, Pokemon really protect how rare Feebas is. I'm going to be interested to see if it's also a really rare card to pull. You know, I'm not saying it's going to be short printed. I'm definitely not saying that, but it would be kind of on brand for them to do something like that to kind of follow that same trend of how Feebas is as a Pokemon, because it is a very rare Pokemon. But seeing here the Milotic, and I just love this card. As you guys all know, like I said, Milotic, absolute favorite Pokemon. So glad that it got a special illustration rare. This is going to be my top chase card of the set 100%, though this is more for personal reasons. But in saying that, I just can't wait. I'm going to definitely get a PSA 10 of this card, maybe a few of them, because I'm such a big fan of Milotic. Really, really love this artwork. I think it's such an amazing card, and I'm just so grateful to see Milotic getting some representation. The last Milotic card we got was from Silver Tempest, and while I do like that card, I was also like, it's okay. I wasn't so drawn into it, whereas this card, I'm just thinking, wow, I cannot wait to have this in my collection. So really, really excited for that, and it shows you how good Surging Sparks is going to be. Moving forward, and let's go talk about these Pikachu cards. So here is the Terastallized Pikachu EX, and I think this is okay, man. Like the Bloom Pikachu Terastallized form. Whether or not, I think more people have problems with the Crystal cards. Now, here's the thing about this Terastallized phenomenon. I've been playing the games every single generation, and you know, in Generation 6, these gimmicks, what they call it, the fans call them gimmicks, started. You know, you had Mega Evolution in Generation 6, then Generation 7 you had Z moves, Generation 8 you had Dynamax, Gigantamax, and now we have Terastallized, right? It seems that Terastallized has been quite disliked by a lot of fans, but also being a collector and being someone who's played Pokemon games for such a long time, usually whenever the current generation is there, everyone hates the current gimmick, right? So, you know, when Dynamax came out, if you guys remember it, that was in Sword and Shield, everyone hated Dynamax. Everyone was like, oh, what's this? It's so unlike Pokemon. And then now as the years are going on, people really like Dynamax. And when you look at something like Mega Evolution, everyone loves Mega Evolutions. Everyone's such a big fan. Everyone's like, oh, Mega Evolution are the best things ever. So I think now with Terastallized cards as well, I think because we're in the generation, people complain about it. But as the years go on, everyone's going to look at it very fondly. I actually am going to say something which I do believe, and this is a genuine thought. I think Terastallized cards actually make card artwork stand out way more. I think it makes the cards look incredible. This Pikachu EX is looking really cool as well. But you've also got examples of the Charizard Special Illustration Rare, both of them actually, both from Paldea and Fates and Obsidian Flames. These Charizards look incredible, and that's due to the a terrestrialized phenomenon, right? It does make the crystals make them like burst out of the card. It gives them a real, we've got that with the Greninja special illustration rare as well. The Greninja, it feels like it comes out of the card. It does make these really, really unique kind of abstract looking cards. It makes them very prominent on the card design. So I'm actually a big fan of the terrestrialized cards. This Pikachu is definitely looking good. And the rainbow border, pricing wise, I'm not sure where it's going to go, but I do think given the fact that it's Pikachu, if you pull this, be happy, because whether or not you want to sell it, you're probably going to get some nice value out of it. Whether you want to keep it, it is a Pikachu card, always going to be great to have in your collection, right? Now, moving on to the Pikachu EX Special Illustration Rare. Now, this card here is going to be, just right now, if I'm forecasting, I think this is going to be one of the top 3 most expensive cards of the set, given the fact it is Pikachu, right? So we have to look, what we have to do whenever we're looking at Pokemon, whether collecting or investing or everything, you have to look at your ace Pokemon, right? Charizard, Eevee, and all the evolutions, Pikachu, okay? These cards fit in a category where you have so many fans. You literally have so many collectors who try to collect every single card of these Pokemon whenever they come out. Whether you like these Pokemon or not, or whether you personally like these in your collection, you have to look at it, in a more strategic lens, right? Pikachu, Charizard, all these Pokemon have massive fan bases, and the fan bases want to collect these cards. So this Pikachu, it is quite debatable. I personally think this is a pretty cool card. I personally think they did all right with it. They didn't go over the top. They made it kind of unique. You've got the kind of card there. It is a special illustration rare, and I think it's going to be quite valuable given the fact it's Pikachu. I've got no problems with this card at all. I actually think it's pretty cool. I think the value of it is going to be quite reflective of that because it is Pikachu and a special illustration rare. I think we're going to see this in the top 3 to the top 5 most expensive cards of the set, and I wouldn't be surprised if this is probably in the top 2 even, right? So very, very interesting card here. Now also you have the Latios and the Latias special illustration rare and the illustration rare. Like I said in the previous video, it probably would have been good to have these either both as illustration rares or both as special illustration rares. The divide is a little bit of an odd choice. Do I mind? Not really, but I do find the divide between them a little bit strange. Like, is Latios a level below Latias, or is Latias the better Pokemon? Is there going to be a future set where one's a special illustration rare and one's an illustration rare now? I'm not sure. But nonetheless, these are going to be very expensive cards. I think this Latios in particular, which I'm looking at now, I think we're looking at a very Groudon from Paradox Rift situation. I think this is going to be, a good $60 to $70 card. I think it's a really cool artwork as well. Probably got the better artwork over the Latias special illustration rare, but I also think the Latias special illustration rare will be very expensive as well, given the fact it is quite a loved Pokemon, special illustration rare, dragon type. It's got all those things that are kind of working for it to be an expensive Pokemon. Now moving on to the chase card of the set, which is my second favorite chase card of the set because, it can't overtake Milotic, for me anyway, but for a lot of fans, this is going to be everyone's top chase card. It is the Hydreigon Special Terra Type Special Illustration Rare EX. Geez, the naming of the Pokemon's getting crazy, but it's the Special Illustration Rare Hydreigon. What an amazing card. These rainbow borders, man, they just make the cards look so good. Okay, and the reason for that, and I've said this so many times, is because the illustrators need to design the card in a certain way to make the rainbows and the card blend well together. If you just tried to put any design with a rainbow border, it sometimes wouldn't work. Rainbows are hard to blend well. They can look really tacky if you don't do it well. The way these cards are designed with the rainbow borders have all been really good. I love the Terrapagos, I love the Executor, and this as well is looking absolutely crazy. I think that this is going to be a very, very expensive card. Whether or not, are we going to get something that overtakes the Greninja special illustration rare? Very, very unlikely at this point, but hey, we are approaching that territory where fans are saying, is Greninja going to be the top chase card of Scarlet and Violet? Is that going to be like the throne of the Scarlet and Violet era? Though with all that said, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens with Surging Sparks as an investment. Some of these singles might become super expensive. Though if you are interested in the top 10 best Pokemon investments at the moment, I did make a video about that, which you can see right here. Within this video, I look over the top 10 best Pokemon cards right now that everyone should be taking advantage of. If you love Pokemon collecting and you also enjoy investing in collectibles, then click that video that's appearing on screen right now and we'll talk more about it there.